It's one of the basic rules. One of the basic rules of all sports. Doesn't matter what the sport is. You never celebrate too early. But whose fault is it? Well, I guess we kind of know whose fault it is. How much can you blame the person for celebrating too early when they actually think that the game is over and that's why they're celebrating? Only to then go on and lose. I cannot imagine a greater heartbreak. I mean, that's one of those reach your hand into the chest, grab the heart, and rip it out, throw it up in the air, and then it runs into a helicopter type of operations. You celebrate because you think you've won, and then all of a sudden something changes, you didn't win, and in fact, you're going to lose. And normally this is the sort of thing that gets blamed on VAR or some sort of late video review and whatever weird American sport happens to be going on. But we're talking about tennis. And this one has to do with the rules. Now, I'm going to take it aside real quick. I know what you're thinking. Zealandism, why are you talking about sports that aren't football? And there's one very important fact to remember about this world here. The ism existence. I'm talking about whatever I want to talk about. Now, normally that's football, but every once in a while I'll find something in another sport that I find so insane that it trumps the soccer football world that I need to tell you about it. And this is something that fits into that category because it's got everything that a great story has. It's Game of Thrones before the ending. It's heartbreak. It's the ups, the downs, unbelievable comebacks, celebration, shit talking. You know I love shit talking. Since when does somebody shit talk in tennis? Damn right. We're talking about the Australian Open qualifiers today, which is something that you absolutely haven't been thinking about. Tennis, the season's just getting underway. I love tennis. I used to sit down and, there's all these different tennis tournaments. For those that don't know, obviously you have the 4 majors, but every tennis tournament is just a bracket, right? Very rarely there's league play or something, right? It is, you literally just line up, play the person across from you, you win, you move on. When I was a little kid, both my parents were really into tennis. I used to print out the brackets for every 250 and up, men's tournament. I would print out the brackets. I even did the women's tournaments for a little while, and I would write in every day. I would go in and check who won, and I would advance the brackets. I killed a lot of trees doing that. But it's a sleeper thing. I hadn't really brought it up before. I love tennis. So I'm paying attention to Australian Open qualifiers. I live in New York. I go to the US Open every year, or I try to go, catch a day or two. And one of the guys that I happened to see was a 19-year-old American named Nishesh Basavareddy, who went to Stanford and then left Stanford after 1 year to become, full-time professional tennis player, broke the top 100 of the world. He's really struggled recently. And so he's entering the Australian Open needing to go through the qualifiers. And he runs into, in the second round, a guy named Sebastian Offner. This is Sebastian Offner. I'm going to familiarize you guys with these two guys. This is Sebastian Offner. He's 29 years old, right? He's a little younger than me, born a couple months after me, making him inferior, as we all know. His career high ranking was 37 in the world. He's been to the last 16 of the French Open. He's been to the last 32 of Wimbledon. This guy's been around, right? He's clearly struggling a bit right now. He's 140 in the world, which means he has to play the qualifiers to get in to the Australian Open, but he's a seeded player in the qualifiers. Well, Nishesh is only 20. He's still only 20. This kid was born in 2005. He is still trying to find his way in this tennis career. Granted, he's still already made over $1 million in prize money, so life could be worse. But qualifying into a major is one of the biggest things you can do. Every major has qualifying, and it can be a season-changing moment because every major draw has 128 people in it on the men's and the women's side. Now, a certain number of those people are taken up by wild card spots that the heads of the tournament can award. They usually just award it to people from that country. Like Basavareddy got a wild card spot into the US Open, and he got drawn against the 9th best player in the world. And he played really well against him. It was a fun match to watch. I sat there and watched this kid play in person, right? But to say it's the French Open, they usually give the wild card spots to either, really good players that got hurt so their ranking's super low, or, young French players to give them experience in the opening round of a major. So you really get, I don't know exactly what it is, 110 of the top players in the world, and then you have guys that qualify in. You have to win 3 matches to qualify. This is what the bracket looks like. Boom, 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 right? You just win those 3 matches, and then you get to go into the main draw, and of course, qualifiers can go on to win the entire thing. I believe Emma Raducanu was a qualifier when she won the US Open, the famous British tennis player. Okay, now you're fully oriented. The match is between these two guys. Second round of qualifying. So this is not for a spot in the tournament. It's to get to the final round of qualifying to then play for a spot in the tournament. And the opening set goes to Offner. 6-4. For those that don't know tennis, you just got to win 6 games and you got to win by 2. So 6-4, got it. That means there's only one set left for Offner to win. Because in qualifying, they don't play best 3 out of 5. They play best 2 out of 3. So Offner needs one more set. He's got 2 cracks at it. Basaveretti wins the second set, 6-4. This means we're going to a deciding third set with lots of money on the line, with basically a ticket to the big dance, a survival ticket to potentially make it to the big dance, a dance that both of these guys will have expected to go to. Both of these guys were in the first round of the Australian Open last year. They're both probably pissed they're in the qualifier. The emotions are high. Okay, and then it goes all the way to a tiebreak in the third set. And a tiebreak is when you basically both get to 6-all. You both won 6 games in the set. Let me know if I'm an idiot for explaining this to you, but I know some people just don't know tennis. And then you basically play points instead of games. So it's first to 10 points. But that changes depending on the tournament. Some tournaments, it's first to 7, right? But when you get to the final decisive set, some tournaments have decided to extend the tiebreak to make it longer because it's the decisive set to 10 points. This is a fact that eludes Sebastian Offner. Because after he takes a 6-1 lead against Basaveretti, he's up 6-1 in the tiebreak. See, 6-4, 6-4, 6-6 in the third set. This is Offner. He's up 6-1 in the tiebreak on Nishesh Basaveretti. This is a good win for Offner. This is an annoying draw to have to play Basaveretti, a guy who clearly is better than his ranking. But he's done a very good job as the seeded player in qualifying to get up 6-1. And here we go. Here's the point at 6-1. Basaveretti to serve. Offner crushes the return. Drives the forehand. Sebastian Offner. The shot from Basaveretti is eventually called long. And you can see Sebastian Offner thinks this tiebreaker is to 7. He puts his hands in the air. He's celebrating, fist pump, smile, does a little point at the head. Maybe he's talking a little shit to Nishesh Basaveretti. I didn't watch this match. I don't know what was going on, but I can't imagine, right? Maybe his family's in the stands. I don't know. He's Austrian. I can't imagine they would have made the trip all the way down there to Australia, considering this is a qualifying match, and this is a guy that used to be top 40 in the world. This isn't like the most important match he's ever played in his life. So he might just be talking shit to Basaveretti, points at his head, and then looks up and realizes that the umpire is sitting there staring at him going, dude, what the fuck are you doing? Right? He's looking at him like, we're not done. It's a 10-point tiebreak. Now, this guy's a professional tennis player for the last decade, right? I mean, look, the rules have changed. The rules they've changed. In Wimbledon, it used to be there was no tiebreak. You just played until somebody was up 2 games in the set, right? There's been all sorts of rules about the different tournaments and the way you actually end it in the final set if things are tied and keep going. The 10-point tiebreak has become fairly standard over the last couple of years. It's kind of wild that Offner didn't know this, or that he just didn't think of it. Maybe he'd just not been in this position before. But this is like the person that made it to being 18 years old thinking unicorns were real. Just by happenstance, they'd ever actually interacted with any piece of media or any person that had told them they were fake. And honestly, when they were confronted with it, you start talking about it like, oh, hey, a unicorn seems more realistic than a giraffe, which is actually a thought that has haunted me for a while. Because if you really think about it, a horse with a horn feels a lot more realistic than a deer with a 20-foot neck. Anyways, Offner thinks that he's already won, and now all of a sudden it's 7-1 Offner. Basaveretti is still up Schitt's Creek without a paddle here. But, and I've watched this kid play, he is streaky. He's very good. Okay, he played a guy named Kirill Khachanov at the U.S. Open, and he pushed him. He nearly beat him. And Khachanav's like a top 10 player in the world. So now, Basaveretti, who's probably just had some shit talk done to him, who maybe, he knows that Sebastian Offner is going to be a little shaken after what he thought was the end of the match. Now Offner, all of his, it's tough as an athlete. Now you got to plug your brain back in. That's a very difficult position to be in. Basaveretti, down 7-1. He's serving. Great serve and shot. 7-2. Great serve, 7-3. Great volley, 7-4. Sebastian Offner wins the point. So it's 8-4. Offner's thinking, okay, that was a little scary, but now I've managed to survive. Basaveretti, if Basaveretti loses one more point here, it's a match point for Offner anyways. He wins it on his serve. Offner hits it into the net. Offner is now choking. He double faults. It's 8-7. A double fault means you serve it out of play twice. The Basaveretti is now on serve in this tiebreak. You serve 2 at a time, and it starts with a person serving once. So they serve once, and then the next person serves twice. You can see how it like flip back and forth and keep you from winning by 2 if everybody wins their service points. So we're now on serve here. Basaveretti drops a nuke. It's 8-8. But then Basaveretti gets to match point. We're not done with the insanity here. Basaveretti has won 8 of the last 9 points played since Offner thought the match was over. Offner is now serving and has got to be thinking, this is one of the most ridiculous situations I've ever found myself in. I'm beyond embarrassed. He probably wants to crawl into a hole and give up. But he turns it around. Offner serving, wins the next point, saves a match point. Basaveretti won that point. It was over. And then Basaveretti just airmails a forehand, looking clearly exhausted. Right? This is a grinding match here. And now all of a sudden, Offner, for the first real time, has a match point to go to the final of the qualifying round. These guys are throwing haymakers. And Basaveretti, for the first time, unbelievably, is facing a match point. But then Basaveretti is serving. He wins the first point. Basaveretti then misses. So now Offner is serving with a match point. He is up 11-10 and serving. He's already celebrated up 7-1 thinking he won. He saved a match point, blew a match point, and now he's got a second one, and he tanks a forehand, literally trying to win the match with that forehand, blasts it wide, 11-11. And then he blasts another forehand away, and he can't believe it. These guys are gassed. And especially Offner, physically and mentally, he's now blown 2 match points. He loses both points on his serve. He's serving up 11-10. All of a sudden, it's 12-11. That means Basaveretti is serving for the match. And Basaveretti volleys it home, and then he hits him. Look, people are going to be divided on this, okay? People are going to be divided on this. Because I don't know the whole situation. I don't know the rest of the match. I don't know who started it. But I know no matter who started it, Basaveretti finished it. Because he volleys at home after saving 2 match points, after coming back from down 7-1 in the tiebreak in the final set. And he volleys at home and hits him with the choke! He choked! And then the big celly. I have no idea if Basaveretti's going to make the main draw, but what an unbelievably epic comeback.